Welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast with me, Christian Harris. My guest today is Amar Shahzad, Health and Safety Lead in the data center sector, founder of the Occupational Health and Safety Institute Sweden, and host of the Safety by Amar Shahzad podcast. In this conversation, we explore some big questions facing the profession today. Are we truly measuring safety or simply managing fear through numbers? Why do organisations with great statistics still experience serious incidents? And what does a more human-centred, risk-competent approach to safety actually look like? Amar also shares the deeply personal story that led him into the profession, his journey from compliance-driven thinking to modern safety science, and why he believes frontline supervisors are the real leaders in creating safer workplaces. I really enjoyed this one. I hope you do too. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast with Christian Harris. We believe that proactive safety and risk management powers business performance. Each week we explore this theme, sharing guests, stories, insights, trends, hints and tips. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, and video versions are available on YouTube. But for now, let's join the conversation with Christian.
Thank you for joining me today, Amar.
As a player being over here with you.
It's only fair. You've had me on your podcast, so I have to return the favour.
Did for that, yeah.
So for people that haven't come across you before, maybe we could start by just telling us a little bit about your journey into safety, because you've worked across different sectors, different countries. What was it that kind of attracted you into the world of safety?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question for me, because I started my journey when as a health and safety, not as a health and safety professional. I did my engineering and I started it as a civil supervisor. And then in 2017, probably, yeah. So there was a friend of mine who was working with me. We both were new in the job, and he was newly married, roughly 23 years of age. And he was calling to her wife. And I was standing downstairs, and he was on the building that was only 3 meters high. He was talking to her wife, and casually he just leaned back onto a support which was not properly placed over there. It was just a scaffolding pipe stuck between two pillars. He put his back on that, and it slipped out. And that friend of mine fell down on his neck and died on the spot in front of me, just near my foot. That was so shocking for me. And at that time in Pakistan, safety was not something which is very well known or very well welcomed. Everyone thinks safety is just something, a burden, or just face saving, or it is just a compliance driven thing. So then in 2017, I thought I should start as a health and safety so I can save the lives of those friend of mine, those who came from home just to do work and go back home safely, to spend time with the family, and even to retire safely. So this was the motivation behind becoming the health and safety professional. Then I started doing NEBOSH, which I did in 2017. I worked with some multinational companies in Pakistan. I started running my own training company, in which at a very low cost, even we were doing some free sessions for the schools and for the universities, where we are going and giving them the awareness about using of fire extinguisher, what to do in the first aid cases, basic first aid trainings. And then I went to Qatar in oil and gas. And then I came back to Pakistan. I joined Philip Morris. There I was a regional manager. And then I got married and I came to Sweden. And in Sweden, I am working with the data centers as a health and safety lead, and also doing my podcast, which is a part of my journey in order to spread the awareness regarding health and safety, and to empower workers, and to tell leaders that safety and compliance are two different things.
Yeah.
We have to follow the safety by heart, because safety is a care for the person who is building this all buildings or doing all work for you and helping you to earn a lot of money. So it is our moral responsibility to help those people to go home, or even I say retire safely after the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask you what was the motivation for the podcast, because you've not been doing it that long, but I mean, other than me, you've had some really great guests. I'm obviously an average guest, but uh, but Todd Conklin, Corey Pfizer, Rosie Russell. So, firstly, how does it feel to sort of get off with that great momentum? And secondly, what are the goals, I suppose, for what you're doing with the podcast and your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so firstly, it's an amazing journey, and like in health and safety field, everyone is so helpful, so willing, and these big guys like Todd, Rosie, Corey, they have helped me a lot to understand the health and safety, and it they gave me a totally different perspective about health and
Mhm.
safety. So I was talking to one friend of mine, and I says like, if I think of myself 2 years back and now, it's totally different. And
Yeah.
like I just started my podcast almost in January. Until now, I have recorded 40 podcasts with all different big guys, the famous names, and these people are those who everyone knows. And through my podcast, because my audience is like a very beginner level, like for example, people in Pakistan or in Asia, so they don't have this information or they don't have this mindset. And through these podcasts, I'm like, these messages which were over here in Europe are now going to Asia or Gulf. And recently, very nice thing, like I was in the podcast with Rosie, we discussed this idea that it is our responsibility that everyone not should only retire, go home safely, person should retire safely. And the company in Pakistan to whom I'm giving a consultancy now, one of the KPI of that organization is that how many people have retired from this company safely. So like these words which were maybe with Rosie in UK came to Sweden to me, and through podcast it went to Pakistan and to UAE. So this is how the things are evolving all around. And in terms of momentum, I think the reason it's growing is because people are also looking for something different. They are tired of just procedures and checklists, and they want like some real conversation, like
Yeah.
practical insights and human centered safety, not only compliance driven safety. We talk more about compliance. We like always, like for example, at 6 feet height you have to wear the harness belt and all those things. So like these things, people want to listen practical things, not just the theoretical things.
Yeah.
And now coming to the second part, my goal in my podcast and YouTube channel, the goal is very clear. Like I want to simplify safety, not to make it so complex, or everyone see safety as a like when safety person is coming in, people start hiding themselves. Oh shit, policeman is coming, or someone will just kill us or give us red card and the job will be end. So I want to take complex idea like safety 2.0, human factors, risk competency, and bring them into a language that workers on site can actually understand.
Yeah.
Because if the safety only stays at the management level or in the document, it doesn't create an impact. And the purpose of all these big guys like James Reason, Sidney Dekker, Eric Holniger, Todd Conklin, these guys are writing a lot of things, telling a lot of things. But I think so these are mostly in the boardrooms or
Yeah.
with the directors. I want to bring the safety to the supervisor, because in my eyes, supervisor is the real leader,
Yeah.
because workers are interacting with him every day. They are taking instructions from him. So I want to empower that line of people where the real conversation actually happen. So like as Todd says, we are not here to fix the problem, we are here to fix the system.
Mhm.
And I think the conversation like this help us to move in that direction. So for me, this podcast is not just uh, the connection or content. It's a part of a bigger mission to change how we understand and practice the safety in the real world, in the job.
Yeah, love it, love it. I interviewed recently a guy called Kevin Burns from Canada, and he's all about the frontline supervisor and their really crucial role in safety. So you should check that out. But I'll connect the two of you as well, because I think you guys could have a really interesting and powerful conversation. So I'll make a mental note to introduce you to Kevin. What's the so you mentioned, your mindset from 2 years ago is so different than it is now, and for me that is one of the things I love most about hosting my podcast and having the webinars and stuff, is that I'm always learning new things, and I agree with you. So what would you say are the one, two, three sort of biggest mindset shifts that you've had as a result of some of the conversations you've hosted on the podcast?
Yeah, so that's very interesting topic, like, because this is that mind shift is something that is amazing. And now, like, I'm enjoying it a lot, that I think so that I am like totally transformed. Is If I look back, I would say there are like three major mindsets. If let's break down it. And so the first shift is moving from compliance to understanding. That is a
Mm-hmm.
very important thing. When I was in Qatar or when I was in Pakistan, it was more like compliance driven safety. Everyone is, oh yeah, this is the procedure, this is written in the procedure, this is the legislation, this is so. Earlier, I believe that the procedures are followed if the audits are done. Then the safety is understand like under control if the audit is good, everything. But through these conversations, I realized that compliance doesn't guarantee the safety. Compliance and safety, I think so, are two different things. For
Yeah.
example, if I have seen a site where everything was perfect on paper, risk assessment done, permit in place, but still people are working in a risky condition because the reality was different. So now I focus more on understanding how the work is actually done, not
Mm-hmm.
just it is written. So I like Sydney's line a lot, and I know that Sidney came to your podcast as well. That was amazing thing. So he's one of the guru I follow. So Sydney says like work as imagined is different from work as done. So
Yeah.
we are always talking about the work as imagined, but it is written in a closed office, very nice environment. AC is there. You are getting coffee or juice, and you feel very comfortable while writing the procedure. But when you are actually on the work, it is sweat, it is pressure, it is so cold or it is so hot, and everyone is rushing. So that is totally different. The second shift is from controlling people to building the
Mm-hmm.
capability, I can say. So earlier, safety for me was about controlling the behavior, telling people what to do, what not to do. But now I see people are not the problem. They are actually the solution. For example, a worker on site is like constantly adapting, making decisions, managing risk in real time. If we just control them with the rules, we limit their ability. And as a human, no one works in that way. Even for example, I don't work in that way, like go straight. Like how many times on the road we over do this over speeding.
Yeah.
This is very common, everyone do this, intentionally, unintentionally. So human is designed in that way. Human cannot be controlled by the procedure. So now the focus is how do we make the people better at seeing the risk, understanding it, and responding to it. And my superhero like Todd Conklin, he says like we don't fix the people, we fix the system in which they work. So if the system is good, system is designed in a way that it is supporting, it is helping, and it is easy to adapt. So then I think so safety will be followed automatically. You don't have to be there with a stick all the time and tell people. So talking about the third shift. Okay. So far, two was good. I think I made it good. So third, yeah, could be yeah. So from avoiding failure to building the readiness,
Hmm.
this is I learned from Todd's book and from the Todd podcast which I had is was how to fail safely and how to build the readiness. This is very important. So early mindset was simple, like avoid accident at all cost. But now I understand that risk is always present. We cannot eliminate it completely. So we used to read it in Nibosh, or we used to say it in interviews that yes, risk cannot be eliminated, risk cannot be zero. But now I understand it properly. So the question is not how do we avoid the failure? The question is, are we ready to respond when things change? For example, like pilot in an emergency or a worker adapting things on site, their safety comes from their ability to respond, not just follow the procedure. So, like sometimes we have to deviate from the procedures in a positive way to adapt and be ready. And I had a very nice example for this as well. Like, for example, when we do the hot work, we take the fire extinguisher with us or every time. It is not that fire will happen. It is just that if it happens, then we have the solution for it. So it
Yeah.
is readiness to response. So
Fantastic. Well, yeah, three big topics there, which each of which could sort of develop into very long conversations in and of themselves. But yeah, some really good insights there. And I mean, what would you say is the most surprising thing that you've learned from hosting the podcast?
the most surprising thing is that you asked me, okay, come to the podcast. No, that's really interesting. Uh, and honestly, the most surprising thing for me was realizing how much of what we believe in safety is actually incomplete.
Yeah.
Like the safety was a total different. Like I talk to my friends, even to the my management, and like they say is like why, like this is not the safety, you are not a safety professional, you are so soft, or you are trying to you are like psychologist or something. But believe me, safety is totally different. It is not
Mm.
what we think. So when I started, I thought that safety was quite structured. You follow the procedure, you manage
Very
the risk.
rules based. Yeah.
Yeah, so you are investigating the accident, and that's how you improve, or this is the system. But through these conversations, I realized that the safety is much more complex and something even unpredictable. One thing that really surprised me is that uh, many incidents don't happen because people don't care.
Yeah.
They happen because people are trying to do the job successfully under the pressure or under changing conditions. And for example, like a lot of time we says that in all the incident reports, this is a very common phrase that human error.
Yeah.
Person was not following the procedure, person was doing this. But come on, guys, human is not a problem. Human is a solution. Worker is a solution for you. For example, worker might take a shortcut not because he want to break the rule, because this system is designed in a way that makes the safe way more difficult or inefficient, or he cannot reach to that place. That is why he's breaking the rule. So
Mhm.
that completely change how human behavior in the safety. Another surprising thing that was understanding the good performance and the bad outcome can exist at the same time.
Mhm.
Like this is a very interesting line that good performance and bad outcome can exist at same time. So you can have a team, like a perfect team, doing everything normally, working efficiently, and still something goes wrong. So instead of asking who failed, the better question is how this makes sense at that time. Yeah, that shift was powerful for me. It's
Mm.
amazing. And
Yeah.
like people don't come to work to do bad job. They come to do a good job.
Mm.
And I think that something or sometime we sometimes forget the important thing in safety. So for me, the biggest surprise was realizing that the safety is not about preventing the failure. It is about understanding the everyday's work, how people adapt, and how the system influence the decision. And
Yeah.
once you see that, you can't go back to the old way of thinking.
Mm.
Now you are a new person, and the company is totally the companies those who adapt these procedures has changed dramatically. Their system has changed dramatically, and although they were saving a lot of direct cost, but there is a lot of indirect cost which they are saving. They are improving their reputation, and people want to stay in those companies. So it is win-win for the companies.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. One thing I really liked there was the point around you can have good performance but still bad outcome. And what's interesting, if you really think about it, is the opposite is true as well. So you can have bad performance and good outcome.
Yeah.
And I think both of those things are quite dangerous from a sort of mindset perspective, because when you go in my field, for example, we might go into an organization and actually we can see that their performance isn't really that good, but they're not getting terrible outcomes. They might not have that many people slipping over. So their perception is, well, that must mean that we're in a high performance and team and we're doing really well and so on and so forth. But actually, it could just be that they've been pretty lucky. Um, I suppose an analogy would be um, maybe a sporting analogy or like golf. You could hit a good golf shot and uh, get an unlucky bounce. Excuse me. Or you could hit a bad golf shot and hit it so badly that you hit a wall and it bounces off the wall into the hole. So you've got the two sides of the coin there.
Yeah, I think so. You are right with this. It is vice versa, and it could be sometime. Like I had a very nice line to describe this. Is this if nothing happened, it doesn't mean that nothing is happening.
Yeah.
So and I think this is where the safety can become quite misleading if we only look at the outcomes.
Yeah.
Because just like you said, like you can have a bad shot and still got a good result. And in safety, that happens a lot. Sometimes organizations are not managing the risk properly, but because nothing serious has happened yet,
Hmm.
they believe everything is working perfectly. But
Yeah.
in the reality, they are just being lucky, I would say.
Hmm. Yeah.
Maybe lucky is the right word or not, but I can say that. So I have seen this on site as well. For example, people working at height without proper control or shortcuts being taken regularly and nothing is happening. Nothing
Yeah.
happened for the months, maybe even years, and then suddenly one day a serious incident occurs and
Yeah.
everyone is surprised. But the risk was always there. It's not that
Yeah.
risk was not there. People were taking the shortcuts, people were trying to manage the things in unsafe way. So I think one of the biggest danger is when the good outcome creates a false sense of confidence.
Yeah.
So, and this is the biggest argument, I think. So anyone who is watching this or belongs to health and safety, he faced this like since 2 years nothing has happened. How you will say that this crane will fail, or
Mhm.
how, like in your case, how you can say that someone can slip or trip because since 2 years we didn't have. So it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that there is nothing wrong. It could be that nothing is happening, like nothing happened, but a lot of things are happening at the
Mm.
same time. Like you said, the opposite is also true.
Mm.
You can have a well managed system and good decision and still end up at a bad outcome because of the variability in conditions
Yeah.
or some unexpected factors. That could be a human factor or unsafe conditions. A lot of factors could be there,
Mm.
and that's why focusing only on the outcome can be very dangerous. because in my opinion, outcome is not reliable measure of the process.
Yeah, yeah. And this was one of the topics that we spoke about before, wasn't it? In terms of before we started recording, are we measuring safety or are we just kind of managing fear? And so the kind of obsession, if that's the right word, about TRIR and lots of lagging indicators, outcomes fundamentally. Is that really useful? I mean, it's again, to use an analogy, if you watch football, ultimately, I suppose it is useful in that the final score is the final score in the football match, and one team could have 80% of the possession and play a lot better, and one team gets a breakaway goal, and they fundamentally have won the match. So it's important to recognise the score, but that doesn't tell the full picture, does it?
Yeah. That's very very right. And like Chris, I really like this how you use analogies for telling things. This is a very good thing. And like before getting into my answer, let me tell you one interesting thing. So I was having a podcast, and I asked one of the leader, like her name was Trish. So I asked her, like, Trish, what do you think is the best skill which a health and safety professional should have? And she told me a very nice thing. She said storytelling.
Yeah.
So that is a very important skill, and you got it very right, and it's really nice. And your overall appearance, your smile, and it makes it very nice.
Thank
Overall
you.
conversation, yeah. So yeah, so moving towards the question, yes, I think that's very good way of putting it. Like I football example because it explains the limitation of these metrics very clearly. And on the other hand, football now the World Cup is there,
Yep.
so it's the best example. So yeah, final scores matter, yeah, definitely, but it doesn't tell you how the game was actually played, as you said. And I think in safety, we have done something similar. We became very focused on the score, I will say, like TRI or LTI, lagging indicators, and we
Yep.
use to judge the performance. Even for me, like we'll get into this as well. Maybe the leading indicators are also sometimes fudged, and but the reality is this, that those number only tell us what has happened. They don't tell us what is happening at the moment. For example, uh, a site might have a zero LTI for a long time. So no paper, everything looks like on paper, everything look excellent.
Yep.
But if you go on the ground, you might see shortcuts, workers are taking the risk, or the workers are not being managed properly, supervisors are not there, supervisors don't want to talk, or so the score looks good, but the game is not being played well. And like we also say it a watermelon effect, that everything looks green when you look at, but the moment you cut it, it looks red inside.
Mm.
So I have been personally a part of thinking as well. I remember in my early days, we used to celebrate like milestones like 1 million safe man hours, and it feels like a big achievement. But
Mm.
now I ask a different question. What are we not seeing behind the numbers? Because sometimes those numbers don't represent the safety, they represent what I could call a kind of comfort, let's say,
Yeah. Hmm.
or even a false sense of control. Or like recently I had written an article on LinkedIn saying elephant in a room. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's a big elephant in a room and no one wants to see it, and everyone says, oh yeah, there's an elephant, but no one sees it, want to see it, but everyone knows that he's there. So what you measure is not necessarily what you manage.
Yeah.
So yes, the score is important, but we cannot ignore it. But if we only focus on the score, I think so we miss the whole picture of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are some of the other things that I suppose there's two parts to the question, really? One is kind of should we be measuring stuff or should we be using more qualitative data to assess, how well we're doing, what things are happening now, rather than just the lagging indicators. And second part is, what sorts of things should we be either measuring if appropriate, or if not measuring, then paying attention to?
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing, and like people can do a lot of debate on this, what we should measure or what we should not measure. So important question. Yeah, definitely, I think. So if we divide it into two parts, both of these parts are critical in my opinion. So first of all, should we measure the things or move towards more qualitative understanding? I don't think so. The answer is completely stop measuring. So I'm not against measuring. The measurement has its own place. We need some level of data to understand like trends or what are the patterns or to showcase what is going on. The problem is when we rely only on what is easy to measure.
Yeah.
So, like we don't want to see the bigger picture or we don't want to see the elephant in the room because most of these things which we measure today, like RIF rates or LTIs or number of audits, these are like either lagging indicator or activity based indicator, I will say. They tell us what has already happened or what we have done, but not how safe we actually are. So I think so, like the shift should not be from measuring or not measuring, but from measuring outcome to understanding the condition. That is important for me. Like for example, instead of just counting how many incident happened, we should be asking what risks are people seeing every day? What are the struggling, what workers are struggling with? What are the controls? What where the controls are failing in the real world, not just in the paper. Like
Yeah.
so these are more qualitative, but as much as more meaningful to me, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now coming to the second part, what should we actually focus on? So for me, there are few very powerful things we should pay attention to. The first is what I called is hideable versus non-hideable information. Do you
Mhm.
have you ever heard about this hideable and non-hideable
No, I
information?
haven't. No, it sounds very interesting though.
Yeah, that's interesting terminology which I recently have learned. So, like for example, if a near miss happened and no one report it because they can hide it, that tells you something about your culture.
Hmm.
Like for example, if something is very obvious, like two cars crash, everyone knows that it happened. You cannot hide it. But on the other hand, workers are like reporting something which could be hidden. Like for example, there is a blind corner in the and workers are telling you about this. So if someone is telling which could be hide, that is an indication of a positive health and safety culture. So instead of just counting the reports, we should look at willingness to speak as well. So the second is understanding the real exposure, not just the incidents.
Hmm.
Uh, for example, there might be hundred of high risk situations happening every day. Like for the routine work, there is work at height going on. There is a lifting operation, confined space. But because nothing has gone wrong yet, we don't see them in the data. So we need systems that help us to see those invisible risks before they turn into an accident. That is very important for me. And the most important I'd say is like I'm saying it at last because I want to emphasize more on this,
Hmm.
that the quality of engagement, not just the activity. We often measure things like number of site visits, number of safety conversations, the director went to site this much time, or there was a hazard hunt or a gamba walk. But we don't ask where those conversations, like, were these conversations meaningful? Was it engaging? Did workers feel heard?
Yeah.
It's not like manager went over there and he is just talking. Does worker feel that okay, this person came to listen to me, not to order me? And did anything actually change on the side? So it's not about counting the activity, it is about understanding the impact. And I will tell you a very simple and nice example. I was doing a consultancy with an organization. They were having a very nice system, but worker didn't feel so motivated or engaged. And we did a very small change into the system. At the entrance where there was a big TRI board, I asked them to remove this TRI board, and we made a big board saying what you said, what we did.
Hmm.
So every day, one of the safety officer see all the observations which workers are giving. He start writing the important observations on the board, and then based on that, every day the status of that board get updated. What we did. So believe me, workers feel so good and empowered, and like he called me like what you did, because a lot of people are giving their feedback and want to tell a lot of things. So in this way they have improved their welfare facilities, which no one from the safety ever went to the welfare facilities. They were only going on the site looking after a lot of things, and
Yeah.
small problems like fixing a mirror in the toilet and giving the coffee in the welfare. These things has improved the overall, I think so, culture in that organization. So
Yeah.
what you measure is not necessarily what you manage. Like
Mm.
this is what I said before as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. No, that's some great insights there, and some very practical things for people to take away and consider how to implement them in their own businesses. So thank you for that. Let's start looking a bit to the future. So if we think about the next 5 to 10 years, you spent a lot of time talking to kind of modern safety thinkers. Where do you think the safety profession is headed over that sort of time frame, particularly in the context of technology and AI?
Yeah, this is very important question, and like in health and safety or in all the professions, you can say that everyone is so frightened for the AI, but that's really an exciting question. And honestly, I think we are at a very important turning point in safety right now. And like if you look at next 5 to 10 years, I see two big shifts happening at the same time. So the first shift is from reactive safety to predictive and adaptive safety. Let me
Mhm.
explain what do I mean by predictive and adaptive safety. So traditionally we have always looked backwards. We investigate incidents, we analyze the data, and then we try to prevent it from happening again. But with the technology and AI, now we have the opportunity to look forward. So like I always says, like we never drive a car by looking into the back mirror. We have to see in the front mirror always. If you go drive by looking into the back mirror, obviously you will never reach to the destination and you
Yeah.
will have an accident. So instead of waiting for an accident, system can start identifying the patterns like fatigue trends, unsafe condition, any any repeated derivations from the system, and give a real, I will say, signals before something goes wrong. I don't know, like signals is the right word for it or not, intimation or something, like because now AI can analyze data far more better than human. But there is an important part. The technology can give a signal, but humans still need to understand the response. So I don't see AI replacing the safety professionals or people. I see it enhancing our ability to see the risk earlier.
Yeah.
And the second shift is from compliance-based safety to human-centered safety. That
Mhm.
is very important as well. Even with all the technology, the biggest difference we still be the people. Like human is always different factor, I will say, because at the end of the day, safety happened in the real work. where people are making decision, adapting, balancing production and safety. So the future is not just digital, it's more human. Like for example, we might have AI dashboard showing the risk level, but if the worker on the site is not empowered to or trained to respond, the data has no value.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the role of safety professional will evolve from enforcing role to build the capacity, which is very important. And since while I am saying this, I'm promoting this, that we have to build the capacity of the worker, specifically of the supervisor, to do supervisor orientation training or things like those. And I think one more interesting change will be the role of the safety professionals itself. Instead of being seen as a compliance person, I will say the safety professional will become more like risk advisor, safety system thinker, or a facilitator of learning or helping organization to understand how the work really happened, which is
Mhm.
very important. Because at the moment, in the big decision making rooms, there is no safety professionals sitting, I will say. Or if he is sitting, he is just like a showpiece, I will say.
Yeah.
So safety is ability to succeed under varying condition. And I think the technology will help us to see the conditions better, but the ability to succeed will still come from the people. So
Yeah.
human factor will always be there. So let me summarize this. Like the future of safety is not about more data or more technology. It's about combating. It's like a battle, battle between better visibility of the risk through technology with the better human capability to respond to that risk. Because safety is like in future will not be, I can say, controlled. It will be continuously created in a real time.
Yeah.
So you can get the graphs or very nice data, or you can get some pictures, a lot of things from AI, but in safety, because it is related to human, so it will be human factor will be the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Great. Well, I mean, I really enjoyed that conversation. We covered a lot in the time. Where can people find the podcast? Who have you got coming up on the podcast? And is there anything else you want to plug or share? Should people connect with you on LinkedIn, for example? What do you want people to do as a result of hearing us today?
Yeah, that is so kind of you that you asked me this question. So, firstly, yeah, I'm a founder of company called Oasis, it's Occupational Health and Safety Institute, Sweden, and you can find me there. I am also on LinkedIn, and thank you. I would say, like, I really enjoyed this conversation as well. It's been very natural and very insightful. So, in terms of where people can find the podcast, is mainly on YouTube. Under my channel is Safety by Amar Shahzad. If you just type it over there, you will find my podcast. A lot of clips of the podcast, and the whole podcast is also on the LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you can find me by Amar Shahzad, or as I said, Oasis. That's where I'm sharing the conversation regularly along with the short clips and the practical safety content. And every Monday we upload one podcast which comes with great leaders, like for example, we had Todd Conklin, Corey Pitzer was on my podcast, and the few big guests are also coming, like Fussy from who's the global head of BP. He's coming soon as well. I'm in conversation with the director of Nibosh, and one of the director already came to the podcast. So a lot of big names who have quite a good influence on health and safety are there. So idea is very simple. So I'm trying to bring global safety thinker into a simple practical format that people on the site can actually understand and use. So in
Yeah.
term of so and hopefully I will be having Sidney Dekker on my podcast as well someday. So, and if there is one thing I would encourage people to do after listening to this, it would be that stay curious, which is very important. if you are a health and safety professional or if you are in any profession, being curious is very important, because I think one of the biggest limitation in safety is when we believe we already know enough or we know everything, or safety people think that safety professional knows everything. So for example, even for me 2 years ago, my thinking was completely different,
Yeah.
and only it changed because I started questioning things, listening to others, and being open for new ideas. So I would definitely say that connect with me on LinkedIn, reach out, share your thoughts, even challenge ideas, even challenge my ideas. So we should start debates on different topics, because this is how we grow. And the conversation is the work. So just having a conversation is a big work, I believe. And I truly believe that these discussions are not like something extra. They are part of improving safety. So yeah, connect, engage, and most importantly, don't just follow safety, think about it. And you can subscribe my channel as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Amir. Really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for joining me. And thanks to everybody that's joined Amir and I today, and look forward to seeing you on the podcast next week.
Thanks for joining us on the Safety and Risk Success podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit follow and do share on social media. Does anyone you know spring to mind as a great guest, even yourself? If so, please contact us on podcast@slipsafety.co.uk. See you next week for another episode.